Well,
Go.
got it. Well, thanks for letting me join you guys. Bob and I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you what's going on with the Halio Viracon partnership and give you a little education on electrochromic glass and how it all works, and then obviously take questions. I'm Crystal. I've actually been with Halio for about 2.5 years. I came from Guardian Glass, so I was on the float glass manufacturing side of the business for about a little over 3 years, and then made the move over to Halio. I actually live in Roseville, so I'm in Northern California. Yeah, I've been in, A&D and that type of field for about 25 years. And yeah, I'm now stuck in the glass world and I don't see any way out, which I think is common for a lot of us. And I love it. So I'm really excited to be here today. Bob, do you want to say anything?
Well, yeah, thank you guys for allowing us. I think from Viracon's standpoint, we're pretty excited about it, especially with we're starting to do some projects now and incorporating our coatings, and they just look fabulous. And so you take the technology that Halio has, you combine it with our coatings, and it's a pretty exciting time for us and for the electrochromic product, really. So Crystal and I have made multiple calls on architects, on developers, on the Irvine company as an example, and it's really getting received quite well. So yeah. Cool. We can, or Crystal primarily. Crystal's more of the expert in the electrochromic than I am, but hopefully we can share some of that wisdom, and we certainly look at Walters and Wolff as a partner on this type of work.
Yeah, and I'll mention one thing, because some of you may know Walters and Wolff has worked with us on some projects up in Northern California. And, this was on our infancy stages. It was on our first installs, and a lot's changed since then. And really one of the big changes is our partnership with Viracon. So, we're excited to have you install the Viracon IGUs with their warranty and our technology integrated in between. So with that, I will, I'll pause my video and I'll share my screen here. 1 second. And actually, I'm just pulling up the Irvine Company presentation that Bob and I gave. So this presentation is really just going to talk to you about, how Halio's made, how we're different, and how we integrate in with Viracon. And so this partnership between our two companies is huge. We actually have been working on this for probably about 5 years. I know Viracon had looked at other products in the market like View and Sage to partner with, and View is very conservative and for a very good reason, and they're very successful. And not until Halio came around were they willing to make this partnership happen. And like I said, we've been talking with them for 4 or 5 years, and as I mentioned, they're conservative, so they wanted to vet everything, test everything. And so finally here we are, and we're ready to actually ship product. We actually have our first project already shipped and installed with a really reflective coating, which is really, really pretty. It's the one Irvine Company is looking at. And we have another order that just came in for about 45,000 square feet for a headquarter building in Toronto. So that'll be their kind of biggest one, and that's coming up right now. So we're really, really excited about this. So this is actually how it kind of all flows together. Halio makes the electrochromic device, which is the technology layer, and I'll show you how that's all made in a second here. But it's a thin device. It's only 1.2 millimeters thick. When we make it, we attach the little pigtail to it, or a little tab for the pigtail to be attached to it. We ship that device to Viracon. It's already pre-cut to size. Viracon then takes that piece and they laminate it between 2 pieces of carrier glass. And that whole sandwich is your outboard light. Then they go the next step further and they go ahead and insulate it and put the inboard light on. Everything is low iron glass. It comes with the Viracon warranty that you're all familiar with. And then at that point, and I apologize, I'm having really bad allergies right now because here in California, it's 75 and everything thinks it's spring. So I'm going to be pausing here and there to drink my Gatorade. So I apologize about that. But then you've got a finished IGU. From that point, Viracon actually attaches the pigtail to that tab that was on our electrochromic device. It gets delivered to you, the glazer. Well, you've already got the frames ready for it. It gets delivered to you. You frame it. You drill a little hole for the pigtail to come out. And then when you install it, the cables that attach to that pigtail should already be installed and kind of wrapped ready at the window, which you guys obviously don't touch, the electrician does, but it's all ready. It's already pre-wired. And then I'll show you some other things. There's the tent drivers, the cloud gateway. It's all in a cabinet that's preferably centrally located in an IT closet or something of that. And then there's a roof sensor. It's a camera that's actually placed on top of the building. And that camera is actually taking photos every 30 seconds. It's sending that data up to the cloud, which is then creating an algorithm with a command. And it's sending that command back down to those tent drivers, which is then electrifying or de-electrifying the electrochromic device, which is telling it to tent or clear. So I know that's a lot of stuff, but that's kind of the overview of how it all works. And then the rest of the slides, we kind of dive into the nitty gritty of that. So our device looks like this. This is how we make it. We take two ultra thin pieces of glass, which this is a really tough thing to fabricate and manufacture when it comes to the thinness of this glass. Each side of our device is only 0.5 millimeter thick. It's very similar to a battery. So we laser etch the glass to create some pathways for the electricity to flow. We then put an ion conductor in the middle, which is applied like a wet film. And then we vacuum seal that out, which then, dries the ions and allows them to move freely between the anode and the cathode side of the glass. That device is hermetically sealed, which is a really key component of how we're different than some of the other products. And we'll dive more into that as we progress here. But that device is hermetically sealed. You've got, one side that is the anode, one side's the cathode. And when electricity is applied, it is doing something like this. So if electricity is applied, it's telling one side of the glass to pull the ions to that side and tint the glass. And, if it doesn't need to be tinted and maybe we've got some cloud cover, it's going to send a command to move the ions to the other side of the glass and de-electrify or bleach the glass. And then that's how the tinting and clearing works. It's pretty basic concept, but the chemistry and the electrical engineering is pretty complex. I'll give you a little backstory that I should have done before here, but our founders of Halio actually worked right down the street in the Bay Area from View. And, they saw the building, growing and the technology being more readily accepted. And they actually worked for another company called Semtech, completely unrelated. Long story short, about 13, 14 years ago, they got bought out. They were still, young in their 40s, early 50s. And they wanted to invest their finances and the rest of their career to sustainable building practices and products. So they were looking at solar, and that kind of was becoming a commodity. They really liked the electrochromic technology, and they just didn't like the color of View, the way it tinted. It was very ununiform tinting with iris effects, and how long it took to tint. It takes a half hour to tint. So one of them has a PhD in chemistry. The other founder has a PhD in electrical engineering. And they said, hey, you know what? My chemistry background, I can fix the color. It's going to take me a little time, but I can fix the color. The electrical engineer said, I can make it tint a lot faster and more uniformly. Let's do this. So that's how Halio came about 12 years ago. And then we've been shipping product actively for about 5 or 6 years. So I should have prefaced our presentation with that, just so you know how we kind of came about. We're based in Hayward as well, so we're really close to you guys in the Bay. What's cool about our product and the partnership with Viracon specifically is that it's allowing the architects and designers and the owners and developers of these projects to have more selection of product, what it looks like, how it performs. If they want bird frit, that's a possibility with Viracon. If you want a reflective coating, we can do that with Viracon's VLO66, and we can show you pictures of that as well. What's a little different than what you might be used to, and not that this totally matters, but just to kind of educate you on this. Usually you would see a low-E coated product on surface number 2, or with the coating on surface number 2. It's pretty typical, 2 or 4, depending on the makeup. With Halio, our device, which is in the outboard light, does all the heavy lifting. So really, we're only adding a coating on surface number 5, and that's for the U value. It's purely for the U value number for energy codes. So in the standard format, without any reflective coating from Viracon, you're probably going to see a VE85 on surface number 5. That's the clearest makeup that we have combined with Viracon. So it gives you a really, really clear piece of glass. Again, everything, every layer, even our device is all on low iron. So that's going to give the architects a lot of flexibility moving forward. And as things progress and Viracon vets more and more coatings, we'll have more and more to offer for you and the client. This is a typical wiring system diagram. Typically, you're going to see it in position number 1, but there are times, depending on the curtain wall makeup and the design, that we might have to put pigtails in position number 2 or 3. Halio, we've got a whole team of project managers, engineers, electricians that actually will sit down with the client and figure out where these pigtails need to go to maximize the wiring and I guess minimize how much wire we need to use. So it makes it easier for you folks to pull it through your mullions and frame system. So we actually figure all that out and do the diagrams for you. Here's a kind of what the whole system looks like from start to finish. So you've got your IGUs with the pigtails coming out of it. This diagram is not accurate, but as far as where the pigtails come out of, but essentially you've got a pigtail coming out of the IGU. There will be a male end of the cable connected to it. And then the female end is coming out of these tent selectors, which are those little slots in the electronics cabinet. They basically are like the size of an iPhone, maybe a little bit bigger. The female end is coming out of that side. And so they screw together. That cable is plenum rated, fully water submersible, very simple to attach. And actually, for those of you that are familiar with Halio cables already, they're 8 millimeters and actually 9 at the connection point. So they're not super tiny, but in just a couple months, we're coming out with a new cable, thank God. And it's just over 4 millimeters. So a lot thinner, way easier for you guys to manipulate and work with out in the field. On the other side of that female connector is a Phoenix connector. And it's really, really simple. If we ever need to switch out one of those little tent drivers, you just pop it out and unhook the Phoenix connector and put a new one in and pop it back in. So that's really the guts of the system. What's cool about our product is that it's a home run system. So there's only 2 points of failure. It's either going to be at the cabinet or at the window. And usually if it's at the cabinet, we have another office in Salt Lake City where it's literally all our software and hardware engineers. They all came from Apple, Control4, Vivint, super smart folks. They have a picture, basically a diagram of that building, and we know exactly where each piece of glass is going to go. When you get the glass at your facility to frame out, We've got 2 tags on it, front and back. They're all numbered with QR codes. And so it should be plug and play for you. Everything has it's like a puzzle. What was I going to say on that? I guess that's it. It's really, really simple system. Any questions right now so far? And I'm sorry, I have a little bit of allergy medicine brain, so I feel like I'm not giving this as smooth as usual. So bear with me. Yeah, did I hear somebody asking a question?
Yes, just curious about the driver cable that you have. Will that fit through like a wire passage on a door, like from a door panel
Yeah.
to a door subframe or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually have, well, it's not even ours. It's just a standard hinge that the wire goes through so it can move back and forth when you open and close the door.
Okay.
Yeah, super basic. I can get a data sheet for you if you want it. Just let me know.
Sure.
The electrician installs the power supply cabinet. It's a dedicated 20 amp circuit. All these pieces, all the cables, tent drivers, cabinets, energy managers, everything, that all gets shipped to the GC on site. And the electrician is a labor only type contract. And then you get your glass number from Viracon. So it's two entities. You'll deal with the glass. GC will deal with all the components.
And so the GC is getting that quotation directly for those drivers and the cabinets?
Correct. Yeah, that number is just getting passed right on to them. So there's not, an additional markup because the electricians don't have to buy anything. It's all packaged directly from Halio.
Great.
And then there's a couple different ways to interface with the product. Obviously, the main way, especially on large projects, is going to be autonomous mode. And that autonomous mode, is where that camera comes into play and it's telling the glass what to do based on orientation of the building, time of day, time of year. But there are other ways that you can manually override it. One of those ways is a tent selector, and it's very similar to a wall dimmer switch. If it's in a conference room or your private office, you walk in and you're going to tap it on the bottom to dim it, and it'll start to dim. Our product actually goes from fully clear to fully tinted. So 62% VLT all the way down to 2% in just over 2.5 minutes. It's super, super fast. So, if there was a conference room and you needed to do a presentation, you could just tap it all the way down, give it a little over 2 minutes, and it's going to go down to 2% VLT. The other way is a mobile app. In our offices, we have a couple iPhones sitting around or iPads in each office, and you can just, give it the command. It's all set up as an app. That can also integrate into Crestron systems, which is super cool. So, if you were reserving a room, at like 11:30, you could essentially say, hey, I'm at 11:30, I'm doing a presentation. I want the glass already pre-tinted all the way down to 2%. And then I think the coolest one we have in our office, every office has a little Amazon Echo, and you can walk in and say, Alexa, whatever the command is, tint my windows to 50%, and it will do it. So those are the ways you can override it. What's cool too is, that our team in Salt Lake City, we've had this actually happen in a lab space where there was someone that in the corner, they were at a 90-degree corner, and they were, more sensitive to light than the other people in their facility. And so we were able to, in that corner office, adjust, knock it down 10, 12% for that person that was a little uncomfortable. So we can adjust based on people's needs and comfort level. This is just a basic schematic of, where cabinets can be put. Typically, I don't see it like this. It's usually in a centralized location, but if that floor, for whatever reason, doesn't have a central cabinet or a janitor's closet, something like that, we can put them in different areas. We can home run from cabinet to window up to 300 feet in any direction. So you basically have a 600 foot radius that you can go in without ever having to, cut the cable or rearrange this schematic. So that's a cool system. The View and Sage products, just to point out differences, it's not positive or negative. Never want to talk negatively about anyone, but just some of the differences is that they use a truncated system. And so every 50 to 100 feet, you'll have a junction box and then 5 other cables coming out of it. And then, kind of spidering off to another junction box. Yeah, the one I think downfall to it is that you don't know where the problem lies versus where Halio, it's going to be at the cabinet or the window. And you'll have to kind of dig through walls and, push up ceiling tiles and whatnot to figure out where the problem lies. So one of the cool parts about Halio being cloud connected is that, usually Salt Lake City will know about something before you do or the client does. And they can go on the computer, and more times than not, they can fix it from their computer and, reset the tent driver or whatever the situation is. Very rarely do we actually have to go out and physically go into a building to fix something. So that autonomous camera, the autonomous mode powered by the camera, is something similar to this. I mean, we put it on the building. There are projects where maybe it's a multi-building campus and we just need it on one building or somewhere close by. Because it's really just taking into account what's happening in that general area. And so it's, again, taking into account the orientation of the building, the time of day. It looks at obstructions, whether they're new or maybe old. Obviously, there's new buildings going up all the time. So we may need to come out there and do another 360-degree photo and make some adjustments based on, if a tower went right next to your 5-story building, then there's going to be some adjustments that need to be made. So this is actually a cool little video. This is at our Salt Lake City office using one of our cameras. And what you're seeing here is on that upper right-hand graph, excuse me, you're seeing the south and west sun patterns happening. So south would be the orange lines, and the west is the blue line. So you'll see how the south goes down and then the west is going to pop up. And then the bottom graph is our tent level. So the yellow is the south facade and now purple is the west facade. So you can see as things changed, we adjusted our tent levels accordingly. That's the same picture. So for those of you who've had experience with some of the other products, these are kind of the 4 ways we're really different. In the clear state, we're much, much clearer than the other products on the market currently existing. Their product tends to be pretty yellow. When it's in the tinted state, that product tends to be, I call it a Smurf blue. It really is. It is a bright, bright, vivid blue. And our product is a cool neutral gray. It's not, perfectly gray. It just has a slight cool undertone to it. But for those of us that aren't in glass world all the time and comparing, you would walk up to it and go, that's gray. And we're happy to bring we have some really cool tabletop displays that we can bring in and kind of show you the technology up close and personal. You can play around with it and adjust the levels. It's pretty cool. I think the last 2 are super important. They're all important, but these 2 are just really set us apart from everyone. We have unlimited tent levels. So we tent in 1% increments. The other products have 4 tent levels if you include clear as a tent level. So they go clear. If the sun comes out, they're going to immediately go to 60% tinted. The next 2 levels are 80 and 100. But what happens, and I'll show you a video, what typically happens is that those systems are based off forecasts. So they look at the last 5 years, and then they can make some slight adjustments using some real-time sensors, but a lot of it's based on forecasts. So today, it's February 10th. I think typically we might have some scattered clouds. It could be raining, but today here in California, Northern Cal, it's 75 degrees. And so what if we were based off forecast and it was supposed to be cloudy? Well, they probably have the glass cleared. So now we would be in a sunny day and it would have a major glare condition We would be really uncomfortable with the heat because theoretically it was supposed to be cloudy, but it's not. The reverse has happened, which you'll see on a video where, it's supposed to be sunny. And, here we are with clouds. Well, they've tinted the glass to 60 or 80%, and it's cloudy out. So now it's dark, cloudy, and gloomy and blue inside the office building. And that's the way it's going to stay for most of the day, because it has to be conservative. Where Halio, we can adjust in 1% increments. So if we only need 5 or 10% to knock down the glare, and we still want to see out into this beautiful expanse that we can look out. I think someone has, there's some feedback there, sorry. Then we can just knock it down 5 or 10%. We don't have to immediately take it down to 60% and make it dark. The other thing is we tint in just under 3 minutes. It's really 15 to 20 seconds from the command is given, and that's going all the way clear to all the way tinted. When it gets into different levels, like 5, 10%, you don't even see it happening. And it's one of the big differences we have is we tint from edge to edge completely uniformly. So going back to the device, when I mentioned that we laser etch that glass, what the importance of that is, it's kind of giving the electricity and the ions freeways and stop signs to move about edge to edge all at the same time. And it doesn't matter what size glass we're talking about. It could be a 5x10, a 2x2. The way we program the building, you could have a 5x10 right next to a 2x2. They're all going to tint at the same time. You're not going to have the 2x2, tint in a minute, and then the 5x10 tint in 2.5 minutes. Everything is very harmonious and very uniform. So those are the big ways that we're really different from the other product. And so, this is a view product. This is really how they tint. It's a real photo. You can see the blueness of the product, and this is while it's tinting. So I don't know, this might be 10 minutes into it. So another 20 minutes, you're going to have this appearance until that blue reaches the center of the glass. And then the same thing is going to happen in reverse. When you want to clear the glass, you're going to wait another half hour. So for them to do one cycle, tint and clear, takes 1 hour. We can cycle a little over 10 times in 1 hour, tint and clear, tint and clear. This is actually another product. It's called Sage. They have a product called Harmony, and it tints in segments. So this one's tinting from the upper section only. But what you might notice is when you look at this photo, you immediately look at that top blue line. You're not looking out at the trees and nature. You're just kind of, I'm guilty of it. I saw the picture first and I didn't even notice the trees in the background. I just started staring at the blue line. And so that's not an ideal condition either. This is where really Viracon shines with this partnership, is that you can have Halio glass in your vision areas and have your spandrel harmonized with the vision areas. So, Bob mentioned VLO66, and we can show you some pictures of that. But when you have VLO66, you can't depict where the spandrel and Halio are. It all looks the same. It's really, really gorgeous. So, now you don't have to, have this appearance with these stripes and mismatched look. It really adds a lot of life to the building and consistency. And so, architects don't ever render their projects looking like this with blinds pulled down everywhere. We've really become inactive users of blinds. I think we're all guilty of it. When we were in offices, we get uncomfortable, go pull the blind down, and more than likely never change it, unless we're uncomfortable again. But I can't tell you the amount of times I walked into architects' offices and developers and all the blinds are pulled down. We actually have a joke with one developer, partner of ours. It's Alexandria Real Estate. We've actually done several other projects for them, and you've been involved on some of those as well. We go by one on 101, and it doesn't have our product. It's been up for a while, but we took pictures every month of the year over a period of multiple years. And one whole side of the building the north facade, believe it or not, always had the blinds down because of the glare issue and the freeway. And so we kind of joked around with him, like, why did you pay all this money to put all this glass on this 10-story building, and every single person has the blinds down? No one can see out of the building. So obviously they're not going to render it that way. It's always going to be this gorgeous, glass cube, but this is the reality of the situation. So kind of interesting, actually. USGBC actually did a study in New York and found that on average, 59% of the windows or shades were pulled down in more than 75% of the buildings at all times. So that's really huge. And it didn't matter what time of the day it was or what direction the window faced. 59% of the windows were pulled down, or the shades were pulled down in 75% of the buildings. That's a lot of blinds. And then, Halio, we can eliminate this. And obviously there's going to be situations where it's an architectural aesthetic choice, but if it's for sun shading, those can be eliminated. I know those are extremely, extremely expensive. So this gets into, this is kind of, what we presented to Irvine Company, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about with developers. 39% of the CO2 emissions are generated by buildings and building construction. And Halio really speaks to the reduction of CO2 emissions. We can reduce it by 16 to 20%. And that comes from just really dematerializing the building. That's eliminating the blinds and shades, lowering your HVA mechanicals, getting rid of exterior louvers and fins. All of those things contribute to the CO2 emissions. And then how often the HVAC is turning on and off and cooling those windows. A lot of times the vents are right by the windows to cool the windows down and prevent that heat from coming in. You don't even have to put as many vents in these buildings anymore with this type of product and technology in the building. This right here could be a whole nother, honestly, a whole nother presentation, probably 2 hours, really. We had a study done by the University of Illinois and also Harvard, and they came up with specifically how electrochromic affects the occupant's health and wellness. You get almost 40 minutes more of sleep per day because it's affecting your rhythms. You get a 51% reduction in eye strain. And I think we could all use this, a 42% increase in cognitive scores. And you start taking these numbers and putting them to dollars for owners and companies that are leasing spaces for their headquarters. The dollar amount is enormous. There's also a 22% reduction in sick leave. So you start adding all these things together, and it's a real dollar figure that people need to consider. Also, you think about retention and recruitment of employees. I've used this example a couple times. You're all familiar with the Transamerica building in San Francisco. The architect that designed that building actually still was in the basement as of about 3 years ago. And it was Heller Manis. They're the architect that created this iconic piece of property or designed it. Every time, at Guardian, just like everyone else, you kind of have a milk run with the architects, and you go in and you check, have you got any projects? Let me update your library. Does anyone need samples? And so I'd spend my day in the city multiple days a week and go into Heller Manis. And it was my least favorite architect to visit because it was in the basement and there were no lights, no windows. It was all artificial lighting, very yellow, very depressing. And it felt like every time I walked in, I would ask for somebody and they're like, oh, they're no longer here. Do you know of anyone we're hiring? Oh, but so-and-so is no longer here. So I have to, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put the two and two together. They were the only people that had no windows in their office, and it was not a fun place to work. So it's a real thing, the health and wellness aspect. Some of the other things we talk about is, an increase in overall building value. Gensler just came out with a report that said, people that aren't going green with these new buildings, they're going to be losing a lot of money in the long run by not, trying to get net zero and LEED and WELL. And the folks that are meeting net zero are seeing an 8 to 10% increase in their overall building value, which will just continue to increase. You've got a reduction on your operating expenses of up to 20%, sometimes more, believe it or not, in places you wouldn't think of, like Seattle. They actually get a 25% reduction in energy costs because even though they're cloudy, people get uncomfortable. So it's constantly kind of ebbing and flowing. So generally speaking, you get a 20% reduction in heating and cooling. It contributes to LEED and WELL certification, just like we just talked about, increase in employee productivity while reducing turnover and absenteeism. And then there's definitely a higher occupancy rate, higher retention rate, and faster lease times. This amenity is kind of interesting. It's kind of twofold. So this is an amenity that can actually increase usable floor space by eliminating hotspots. I saw it firsthand. There's a developer in the Bay Area in San Jose. It's called Urban Community. Some of you may have heard of this company. They've recently partnered with Bajark Ingels, which is one of the bigger architect firms in the world. They actually have our product in their office. They had static glass with a Mecco shade type product in there. And I walked in for one of several meetings and they were like, kind of joking around. They're like, look at this, Crystal, our blind stopped working. And I'm like, well, good thing Halio's going in like 2 weeks, so you won't have to deal with it. So this is about maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I walked back in for another meeting and our glass was in. And the main guy, Gary, he's like, what do you notice about the office? And granted, they only have like a 2,000 square foot office space. It's small, but it works. And I was just kind of looking around. I'm like, did you move desks around? I don't know, did you remodel? And he goes, we actually gained 200 square feet of office space by putting your product in, because now we can put 3 or 4 different desks perpendicular to your windows and have 2 people at each desk. So they're not pushed all the way in the back. They get to look out the window, although it's a parking lot outside, but still they get to look outside, and they increase their floor space by, what is that, 10%. The other part of the amenity equation is that, typically developers are shooting for 3 amenities: cafes, conference rooms, and gyms. Well, especially now with people not being there, but hopefully, post-COVID, let's all get back to the office. And really the gym, only 20% of the people use the gym facility. It's a great selling point, but the amount of people that actually use it, especially now that we've all probably equipped a room or some garage into a partial gym, that's definitely not as big of an amenity draw. Cafes, I think people, we have one, but we all get tired of going there in our Hayward office. So, that'll still be there. And conference rooms are the big one. But when you ask people, what's the number one thing you want when you work in an office, everyone will say, I want a view and a window. So by adding this type of technology, and Halio specifically, you're giving the developers and the owners and headquarters are giving their occupants an amenity that everyone benefits from. So there's the 2-part my amenity soapbox. There's fewer tenant improvements required because you don't need the blinds and shades. It helps conform to ACA requirements and dust-free environments. It future-proofs against climate change and shifting building codes. So this is kind of interesting. Not sure if this will ever happen, but if there is a building code change, what's cool is our Salt Lake City office can go, hey, you know what? We don't want, the glass can't be at 62% VLT anymore. It needs to go down to 56. We get on our computer, we make that the new set point. Now it only goes to 56. So that's an option. Or this is a real live situation that's happening. We just got awarded a hospital project in Texas. It's almost 17,000 square feet. The CEO came out and looked at the mock-up. I've been out to Dallas 3 or 4 times. And this was cool. I had Salt Lake City, actually, I called them up and I go, hey, the glass out here, it was a finished building by Kroger. So Kroger grocery store. It was a robotic packaging facility, kind of like DoorDash, but they, you had us basically robots are grabbing all your stuff for you and it's not an actual grocery store. But they put about 2,000 square feet of Halio on this project. It was 3 panels high. So I had probably, I don't know, call it 40 different columns, 3 high. And the CEO was like, man, I really wish I could see the product in different tint states, but it was like 9:30 in the morning, full sun. And so all of it was tinted dark. So I called up Salt Lake City and I said, hey, can you make these columns for me in different tint levels, like 100, 60, 40, 25, 15, 5. 5 minutes later, he's like, okay, I'm hitting the button, get ready. It's all going to start changing. So I showed him all these columns and he goes, you know what? I don't ever want it to go below 15% tinted. I don't want it to go to 2%. So can you do that? And it was just his preference. And I go, yeah, we can set that up at commissioning. We will never, the glass will never tint below 15%. So that's just some of the things that we can do to, go with either climate change, building codes, or occupant preferences. And then competitive edge for, we kind of talked about this already, but healthy buildings, green buildings, PR and recruitment messaging that we care about you. You'll love it here. You'll be happier and more productive here. I'm going to skip over this. I usually I never talk about pricing. I talk about overall budget pricing and all the deducts, like here's Halio versus a standard low E coated product in typical installed cost. And let's deduct your blinds. Let's deduct your drywall pockets for Mecco shades. Let's lower your HVAC mechanicals by 10%. And I talk in those kind of numbers and categories. So when you start looking at the pricing, I'll just go back to this. When you start looking at pricing, really, a lot of people have the preconceived notion that this type of product is way more expensive. Well, really, when you look at it, even on the front end, it's really not. If you're on the front end of a design, you can lower your HVAC, get rid of all the things we've talked about, and just have this product in. And people are shocked when they see that Halio is actually a deduct. When you look at, we have, let me go back to my screen here, 1 second. When you look at the fact that, hang on, where is this in show? Let me find, I've lost us here, 1 second. I'm trying to turn my camera back on so we can chat, but I don't see it. Oh, here we go. Here we go. When you look at that, we've got low iron product all the way throughout. That's always an add-on if people want less green glass. We're double laminated, so that gives folks a very high STC rating of 42 and a high OITC rating of 34. There's just all these other benefits that they don't think about. So if a lot of infill projects, they're going to say, hey, I want low E, I need acoustical ratings, I want low iron glass. Well, that probably just added another $10 to a standard low E coated product. So anyway, without diving too far into it, that's an exercise that I'm happy to go through with you or developers and architects and just give you a very general idea, like, here's what you should really be looking at. And is it really an add, or are we really a deduct in the long run? Let me stop there and take questions, comments. We've got about 15 minutes and I'm all ears.
So for the pricing, if we had a project that was looking to use this, I assume we just follow our normal process of sending that RFQ to Viracon?
Yep, exactly. Yep, you'll get a Viracon number from them. Typically the standard, and this is not a secret, the standard offering, the way it is, like 6 mil over 6 mil with a 6 mil inboard, VE85 on the interior light, surface number 5 is $25 from Viracon. If there's any adders, different coatings, then Viracon can address it at that point. But you'll get a basic 25 number from Viracon. And then let's talk about that a little bit. So View and Sage, they're usually lower on the glass. And we feel strongly about this. You know, you guys and gals are the glazers. And why would you want to mark up a $15 number when there's a lot more effort that's going into it? It's not a regular, you know, standard IGU with, you know, 2 panes of glass and no technology. It's a technology piece that you guys are having to drill holes, and it's a little more effort to install. So we want to protect the glazer and not just go in as the cheapest glass. The way we kind of have to work around that is, you know, tell the developers, hey, you're getting a Viracon warranty. And you guys might already know this, it's a 10-year standard warranty. They have a VTS spacer, which Bob can talk more about, but that does increase the warranty to 12 years. And Viracon is the expert at making IGUs. View and Sage are not experts at making IGUs. So our take is, hey, we're the experts. Halio is the expert at making the technology layer. We're shipping it to Viracon. They are the experts at everything else. So they take it from there. And then I explained to the owner and the architect that, hey, the remaining balance, I never give numbers, but the remaining balance is going right to the GC. There's no markup. We don't have any subscriptions. We, you know, one of the things that the other products are doing is selling it really low and then crossing their fingers that, you know, all the people that end up moving into the building will subscribe to their service to make the glass work, therefore increasing revenue numbers long-term. We just don't believe in that. We're not going to operate that way. So our number is our number. It increases, it includes commissioning, all of our customer service, anything you need, we're there, and it's forever. So that's kind of how we go to market, just to give you an idea.
So your inner layer carries the same 10 or 12-year warranty, depending on the spacer being used.
Correct. So our technology is guaranteed for 10 years or warranted for 10 years. Sorry, you guys. We've actually done accelerated testing up to 50 years on the product. There's no degradation in the tint level, the tint color. We're thinking about putting a 20-year warranty on the electronic and the technology. We just haven't done it yet. So we have a 10-year warranty on the electrochromic device.
Okay, I did have one other question, and maybe it's a better question for Bob, but what are lead times like for this product, roughly?
Well, Crystal, you can, you might be able to touch on the EC or on the product coming to Viracon, and then from there, I mean, from there, it's just really more of a standard lead time. But
I think overall, the lead time right now is at 18 weeks from literally from the time you put your PO in and we have shop drawings to the time it's delivered to you. You will see that really dramatically decrease, I would say, by the end of this year. We're hoping to get it more around the 10-week mark. And that's going to come with, you know, having standard sizes, having architects really work with us way ahead of time and integrate those standard sizes and lower the SKU count. It'll help all of us, honestly.
Crystal, maybe you can touch on Title 24 and performance.
Yeah, let me grab my little cheat sheet here real quick. Hang on. Yeah, so you guys probably all know about Title 24. The common prescriptive numbers for curtain wall has a minimum VLT of 46, a maximum U value of 41, and a maximum solar heat gain coefficient of 26. If your low E coated product doesn't meet that, then you have to go to a performance-based Title 24 system. With Halio, you don't have to do that. It's a shoe-in for Title 24 because it allows us to take the highest VLT in the clear state with the lowest solar heat gain in the tinted state. So on our, you know, basic product, I don't have the new cut sheet in front of me from Viracon, but I believe it's around 60 60% VLT in the clear state, and it's always a 0.09 in the tinted state. For the most part, it actually can go lower when you add VLO 66 and some other things to it. But our standard product out the gate, 60 VLT, 0.09 solar heat gain coefficient, it blows the doors off of Title 24.
Crystal, what are
Crystal,
some of the max, is there a limit? What are the max sizes we can have the glass be?
Yeah, actually, let me pull, there's a new piece that just came out. And Bob, I don't know if you've seen this, but so for April 15th, there's one size, but post April 15th, there's going to be a little bit larger size. Let me just pull this up. I'm sorry. Do you know those numbers off the top of your head?
I don't, Crystal. We've not been told that yet.
Okay, okay. One second. Basically, it's a 5x10, but with Viracon, there's a slight little difference. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'm going to pull, I'll share my screen with you guys. Let me find it on the screen. Here we go. Okay, do you all see that?
Yes.
So here's our standard sizes. This will be post 415. So it will be 59.53 inches by 120 for 5x10. That's for conventional captured. And then with structural silicone, you can go 60.31 by 121. And then laminated for interior partition, which we don't see a whole lot, a couple lab spaces, but typically you're going to be looking at these two. So almost the full 60 on conventional captured. And then if they're horizontally oriented, we realize that with Viracon, this is pretty typical. You don't want roller wave going vertically. You want it to go horizontally, so your eyes are moving with it. When it comes to that, a lot of people think you can just turn it sideways, but Viracon has to prepare for all that and know which direction that the glass is going in the furnace at. And due to furnace sizes, the biggest we can go wide is 8x5. So everything will have the horizontal roller wave distortion evenly. You're not going to have pieces with vertical. Let me ask you this, have you guys all seen View and Sage? Would you like to see a video where it shows a side-by-side comparison and kind of how we are all different and operate differently? Would that be helpful? Yes?
Yeah, I think we're down to the last few minutes. So maybe before that,
Okay.
do you have any other questions?
And Crystal,
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
I just want to know the thickness of the laminated outboard. What's the minimum you go on that?
The thickness of the laminated outboard light?
Like overall thickness of the laminated makeup? What's the minimum you do on that?
Well, so for the overall IGU itself, it's 1 3/16.
Okay.
For the entire unit. And then it varies depending on if we're using 5mm carrier glass, 6mm, but go with 1 3/16.
Do you provide it as just a standard laminated unit, or are you guys only doing them as insulated for like interior?
No, that we have a standard laminated only unit, and that is really a black. There, we use that a lot in I'm just trying to find it here. Interior pieces. Shoot me an email and I'll send you the tear sheet on it.
Okay.
With all the information. But that one actually goes to literally 0.01 VLT. It's like almost blackout condition. So that is for privacy.
And Crystal, do you have those photos, that I sent you handy?
I do. Let me drop them on my computer real quick.
I could pull them up as well if you want.
Okay, hang on. Select, let me just pull these up. Unless you want to share your screen and you've already got it on there.
Yeah, happy to do so.
Okay.
Hang on. Well, you have to give it up first.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. Stop share. There we go.
All right. You guys all see that?
Yes.
So this is a project that is obviously in the middle of installation, and this has the VLO 66 coating. And the way I look at it, it's very similar to our VRE 65. So being the lightest of the VRE coatings in regards to reflectivity. But you can see where I believe this is all Vision, but if you had a Vision and spandrel, tying that together is a much easier process. Let me grab another one. So here's I think the same building. And you can see different lighting conditions in this case.
I don't see that next picture.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
Hang on. You see this one? You can see it's a
Yeah.
cloudy sky or winter sky.
It's really, really pretty. And if you guys look at the reflection, I mean, there is no distortion in that glass. It's really, really clean. Actually, Bob, too, I matched up. I have another project here in Sacramento. It's actually the Folsom Lake College project that's going to be starting. And I brought in 4 different pieces of Viracon, and it matched up to VRE 124, I believe it was. It was a perfect match to it. Let me look at my tag here. Yeah, it matched up to VRE 154, the best.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was perfect. Does anyone want to stay on for a minute and watch that video?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and play it, if anyone wants to stay on, otherwise they can drop off, but they can,
Okay.
they'll be able to catch it from our recording after.
Okay, perfect. Let me pull it up for you. So I'll preface this while I'm pulling this up. This was a mock-up that we did in Austin, Texas. And it was, it's for a real project. We did a side-by-side comparison. We did a mock-up in a tiny house. Most of the video you're going to be seeing from the inside looking out, and you'll see Halio on the left, View in the middle, Sage on the right. You know, we had to do a side-by-side comparison. So we were like, let's throw in a camera and capture all this and see what it looks like as the day progresses. The only thing we wish we would have done is used a professional camera, because if any of you are familiar with photography, there's a white balance that the camera automatically kind of selects for you. And so I don't think our glass looks as gray as it really does in real life in this photo, because the white balance kind of messed it up, but you'll get the general idea of what I'm talking about here. Okay, I'm gonna screen share. And then when you see the time on the top of the screen, that's the real time of day. So it starts out at like 9 a.m. So here we go. Oops, sorry.
Introducing a first in the smart glass market, a head-to-head, side-by-side comparison of the 3 electronic manufacturers. A design team for commercial office development initiated the evaluation, then captured a video which shows the performance and occupant experience of each system. We will review this video and highlight the main points. Each manufacturer supplied their latest and best technology, including an exterior sky sensor which provides daylight and cloud-covered feedback to the system intelligence. The glass units will tint on automation, demonstrating each manufacturer's functionality and occupant experience. The architect requested a silver reflective exterior glass aesthetic. In order to meet the design intent, Halio was combined with an AGC coating, Stop-Sol Super Silver. Halio is unique in offering a wide range of flexibility in glass composition, providing architects with design freedom. The video will highlight the major improvements that Halio delivers with next-generation smart glass technology. Notice how Halio will tint quickly, will tint evenly, and provide the right tint at the right time in sync with real-time weather conditions. Ready to get started? The first day begins with clear skies. The tiny house has a southwest exposure, so direct sunlight on the facade is expected around noon. Notice what is taking place. There is no direct sun or risk of glare, and it's more than half an hour before direct sunlight will graze the facade. Because of slow tinting glass, you and Sage need to get prepared for a future glare possibility, so they start tinting early. With fast tinting technology, Halio can remain clear, maximizing daylight. Notice how View and Sage are tinting. View tints slowly from the outside edges in, a curtain-like effect. Sage tinted the top half of the 10-foot glass unit, blocking the view of the sky. On the other hand, Halio tints evenly from edge to edge, and you might not even notice Halio changing state. So we applied a T-Biz metric in the bottom left corner, which shows the Halio tint status. Now with direct sunlight and scattered clouds, Halio manages glare, tinting just enough down to 37% T-Biz. But because of slow tinting and limited tint presets, both View and Sage are now in a very darkened state. They are blocking the glare, but also causing a very gloomy condition. Now watch as the sky conditions continuously change, and how Halio actively tints and clears in sync. The Halio sensor now detects a large cloud. No tinting is required, so Halio quickly goes clear. Unable to predict and react quickly, View is stuck in a very tinted state, and Sage is blocking the view of the sky. As the day progresses, notice how Halio truly optimizes daylight. Maximum daylight balanced with ensuring the occupants are protected from glare. Now Halio is fully tinted due to high glare probability. View is in clearing mode, perhaps due to the previous clouds or expected clouds coming. Caught off guard, View's occupants are now in an uncomfortable glare condition. Just a few minutes later, Halio quickly switches to full clear in response to the large clouds. View and Sage are tinting, catching up to the previous glare condition. Now again, caught in a very darkened state. Slow tinting glass going from glare to gloomy. As we approach the late afternoon and evening, notice how Halio expertly manages the ever-changing sky conditions and the low-angle setting sun to keep occupants most comfortable. This experience reinforces that it is only Halio and fast tinting technology that can deliver a glare and gloomy-free occupant experience. Halio always sets the right tint at the right time. It is smart glass technology worthy of your project and investment. This elevated occupant experience is made possible with fast tinting technology, unlimited tint states, uniform tinting from edge to edge, a real-time weather response control system, and a natural, neutral tint color. Design with daylight and bring your building to life.
Any thoughts, comments on that?
You know, Crystal, going back to what you said earlier, I found myself looking at the glass on the Sage and View.
Yeah.
Because it's just constantly going in and out.
Yep. It's very true. Well, I think you
That was
all
helpful.
have,
That
Okay.
it was really helpful seeing that and seeing that comparison.
good.
side
Good,
to
good.
side.
Well, if you guys and gals have questions, you should have Bob and I's information. You know, we're here to support
Okay.
you, help
I'll make sure
you.
everyone gets your contact info, Crystal, so I'll share that with
Great.
everyone.
Great.
And everyone has Bob's, so.
Perfect. Thank you, guys and gals. Hopefully I'll see all of you soon here in person.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Crystal.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was great.
Have a
Thank you.
great afternoon.
All right, take care.